All right, so we'll jump into everything here. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. And we'll pull this up here. Perfect, and then that should be sharing. And let me pull up my outline. So if you have done webinars with me, I like to provide some outlines so that way you guys are aware of kind of what direction we're headed today. So we'll talk about 4 things today. The first thing is going to be just building a board and how you can think about building a board. Number 2 is going to be editing the tasks in the board. 3 is going to be talking about sharing task boards and what you can do there. And then 4, we're going to go over some limitations because a lot of people have questions on can it do this or can it do that. So I wrote down a couple of the bigger ones that people normally have questions on. So we'll talk through those as well. So we can jump in and get started here. And the first thing we're talking about is actually building a board in Dubsado. So we get the question a lot of, do you guys integrate with Asana or do you integrate with Trello or anything like that? Dubsado, our whole goal with the system, not just with project management, but with the whole system in general, is to create a space where it's a one-stop shop for everything. So our goal isn't necessarily to be, competitors or we don't like those other companies. It's more along the lines of we just want to offer everything in our platform. So with our tasks, we have it set up where it's going to be something that's built within Dubsado. So it's not designed to be connected to another platform. It's designed to all be in-house. So that's our goal. And obviously we want to continue to make improvements with our task boards as well and with every aspect of our system. So with the task boards, this is going to function a lot like Trello, where you can create the different columns and cards that you can in that system. And so we'll jump in and we'll take a look at that. So if we start underneath tasks, that's over here on the left-hand side there, when you click in there, it's going to bring you to this page here. And this page is going to have a couple of things across the top. Number 1 is going to be My Tasks, which is basically all the tasks that are assigned to you. All tasks is going to be where every task for the entire brand is in one area. So that's how you can kind of divide those 2 up. And then boards is what we're going to look at today. So boards are going to be the place where you can create like to-do templates that you're constantly doing for a client. So if you're in the design industry, I know that's a big one. Sometimes in the photography business, maybe post session, if there's things that you normally do, photoshopping files or downloading things, anytime that you have a to-do template that you're always doing for a client, you're going to want to create a board for that. And it's going to be a project template that you can apply to each project as it comes in. So you won't have to recreate the same system that you normally do for a client. You can just apply that to each project as it comes in, and then you can just check it off as you go through those different tasks. So if we are on the board section here, I have one created already, but I'll show you how to create a board. So up at the top here, we have a place where you can click Add Board. And so from there, if we click Add Board, it's going to bring up a modal where you can title what you want your board to be called. Now the project area, if you assign or if you designate this board to go to one of these different projects, then it's going to be just something that's only inside of that project. So if you're wanting to make a template that's more of just a general template, we call those general boards in our system. You can just leave this blank and not add it to a project at all. And then anytime a new project comes in, you can go into that project and assign your general board there. So that's going to be how you'll create it. Now, if you click the drop down here, it's going to give you a list of all of the different templates that you have already. So I only have one, so that's the web design one that's popping up there. And if you go here to the view section, you can view a couple different types of boards. You can view all boards, so that would be everything that's attached to a project and also just your general templates. You can just look at the ones that are assigned to projects. And then you can also just look at your general boards. I made this web design a general board because anytime that I get a new project, I do the same thing and it's all part of the same process. So I just want to create a template as a general board and I'm going to apply those to different projects when they come in. So we have that there. And so we'll click into this and we'll talk about actually building a board and setting it up. So if we click into this, As you can see, if you are familiar with Trello, it does kind of have that exact same effect where you have your different columns across the top, and then you have your different cards underneath here. So the purpose of the task board is to break your project down into different phases. And those phases are going to be completely up to you and how it fits your business. So there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do a board. But that's going to be how you'll set that up, is to break it down into different columns or break your project down into different phases, and then you can basically create your tasks underneath there. So as you can see, I've broken this down into different phases, and I am not a web designer. For those of you who are watching, I don't know anything about web design, so if this is wrong, I don't know what to tell you. So the phase one here is like the brainstorming phase. So the things that I'm going to need to do in that brainstorming phase, whether it's I need to look at, I don't know, other templates to get inspiration, if that's part of what you do. But what you're going to do is you're going to write out your list here of the different tasks you need to get done. So when you click this plus button, you can type in, let's just say task 5, and enter that in there. You can say, get the web design templates figured out. We'll just put that in there and add that in. And so as you start making your templates here, your different tasks that you need to do, it's just going to put it underneath that column. Then I have my planning phase. So these are all the different tasks that I would need to get done there. Same thing with phase 3. This is the actual design portion. And then this would be the implementation phase. So you can kind of take a second and think about your business and think, okay, well, how can I use task boards to my advantage? Are there tasks that I do for every single project, every single thing that I do that's the same, that I can take and I can move into a project, and it gives me the ability to have a to-do template that I can check off. So once you have these developed here, then you'll be able to apply this to a project. But before we do that, I want to talk about number 2 on our list today, which is to edit the tasks and the different things you can do with each task. And so when we go back to our board here, and that's how you build the board. So now we'll talk about editing each task. So let's go to this planning phase here, and we'll just go ahead and click on task 1. So when you build a task into the column, there's a lot of other things that you can do with each individual task. So the first thing is the body. What does the task say? You can change that around if you want to. The second thing is you can assign due dates to each task, particularly each one individually. Now, with this, one thing that I would encourage you to do is to not set due dates on your general board templates, because that means that every time you apply that board to a new project, if you set something for August 8th on your general board, it's going to have that due date on every board from that point forward. So what I would recommend doing is, at least on your main template, don't assign any due dates for that. Do the due dates inside of the project, so that way it's specific for that particular client or that project. But you can assign due dates for every single task. The other thing with the due dates is this as well. Any task in the system that has a due date attached to it is going to automatically go onto your calendar. This is a function that is set in the program, so there's not a way to turn that on and off right now. So just be aware of that if you do assign a due date to a task, that it will show up on your calendar. So that might be great for you. That might make you consider what things you want to add due dates to. If you don't want your calendar to get too busy, maybe take some due dates off of there. But that is how it works in the system, is once a task has a due date, you'll see it on your calendar displayed. So you can add due dates there. Then you can also switch boards. So if you had multiple boards, so let's say you had 2 different general boards, you could move that to do into a completely different board if you wanted to, which is pretty cool. The other thing you can do is you can change columns. So maybe this task doesn't really fit underneath planning and I want to move it to the design phase or push it back to the brainstorm phase. You can move columns with your different cards that you have or the different tasks that you have. So this gives you the ability to kind of move pieces around. If you don't like where it's at in your project area, you can move it around. And then the assignee area. Now, this is going to be especially important if you have multi-users that you want to assign different tasks to. So let's say you have an assistant that's working for you, and you know that in the planning phase, task 2 and 3 is usually done by that assistant. In that case, you can go in, you can add your multi-user to that task. So that way, every time that you add that task board to a project, that multi-user is assigned to that particular task each time. So the assignee here, it's going to bring up a list of the brand owner and all the multi-users who are attached to the account. And then you can go in and you can assign who you want to be a part of that particular task. The other thing with the assignee is that they will also receive an email when they've been assigned a task. So if you are looking for something that can let the client know, hey, you've been assigned a task, once you assign them a task, they receive an email. So that also is a really great feature. The other thing about assignee too, if you're taking notes, I know there's a couple things with the assignee, but the other thing with the assignee is whoever this gets assigned to, it goes onto that person's dashboard. So if you're needing something to go onto a particular multi-user's dashboard, then the assignee is going to be where that goes to. Now, if you are, let's say, the brand owner and you can see everything that's in the brand, when you go into the project, you'll still be able to see all of the tasks that need to be finished for that project. This is just strictly for the dashboard. So if you assign it to your assistant and they log into their account, when they go to their dashboard, that's where they'll see the task to mark it off. So that's something that you can utilize as well. If you leave it blank, it doesn't go onto anybody's dashboard. It just stays in the project. So you can kind of think about the different tasks and what you actually want to go onto a dashboard, or if you just want to leave it alone and it's only in the project. So that's how the assignee will work there. And then the other two things, which is really great, and a lot of people have utilized this to their advantage, is the files and comments area on tasks as well. So in the files section here, you can upload any file that you would like to in here. Now, if we do this and let's say we add in like a PDF, then that's going to put the PDF in the task there. The other thing that's really great about this too is that it also timestamps it. And so you can see when it was uploaded, as well as which multi-user or which user in the brand also uploaded it in there. So that is amazing if you're needing to see when someone added something in there. And also, you know, if there's any files that aren't just regular PDFs, you can put pictures in there. You can put audio files in there. The one thing about this is that there's a 5 megabyte limit on the file size. So you're not able to upload like a 2 gig file onto a task, but as long as it's 5 megabytes or less, you can upload files in here. And that way, if a multi-user comes in here and wants to see things that you've uploaded in there for them, and then we'll talk about sharing the task boards with clients in the client portal. If there's things that you need to get to your clients, you can upload files into those tasks, and then they can extract those off there when they open it up, which is really cool. So files you can upload on there, it timestamps it. The other thing is comments. So if I just put in get this done, ! And add a comment in there, it's going to put that comment on there, and it also timestamps it and puts who wrote it as well. So files and comments, that's probably one of the cooler things that we have with the tasks, and the ability to add those things in there can make a difference if you have a lot of multi-users and you need to get them files, or if you do a lot of sharing of your task boards with clients, you can get them comments and files as well through the task boards, which is pretty cool. So that's going to be a breakdown of how you can edit each task. So quick rundown: body, just the due date. You can switch boards there. The assignee, you can assign it to a different multi-user, and then you can do the files and comments. So that's number 2. That's going to be how you can edit a task. And you can kind of think about if you want it to be more for the general board itself, or if you want to assign things inside each project so it's more detailed. Actually, in this project, I want this multi-user to do this task versus this one. Then you would actually go into the project and make the edits to each task and assign due dates and whatnot. So that's good there. So the next thing we'll talk about is actually sharing a board. So once we have our board done, what's the next step from that point? I have this created. How do I get this to a particular client? So the first thing is that I'll just mention right off the bat, there's not a way to auto assign a task board to a project. The only thing that you can do as far as automation is going to be more workflow related. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later when we get into the limitations portion of it. But each project task board that you want to assign to a particular project, it'll have to be done manually. So I'll show you how to do that. If we go into a project, and we'll just jump into one here. What you'll do is you'll go to the task section inside that project. And so we can click on that there. And right here where you can see the project boards, if we click on that, it's going to bring up every board that's assigned to this particular project. So this will bring up a list. If you have 3 or 4 different boards on a project, those will all show up inside here. And so right now we don't have any boards on here. So what we can do is we can either create a board from scratch. So if you don't necessarily want to make a general template, you could just come into a project, click add board, and make one just for this project. So kind of just doing it on the fly. You can definitely do that there. The other thing as well is this drop down here. When you click the drop down, it'll bring up a list of all of the different project board templates that you have. So we only have one right now. It's the web design. And so if you click that, it's going to add a fresh template into the project here. And so when you have that, let's see, my computer is going to load here. It's running a little slow today. But when you add that project board in here, and so now it populated in there, when you add this board into the project, it adds a fresh template, meaning that if I go into this board now and I make changes, I switch things around, it's not going to mess with my master template anymore. It's just creating a copy of that and putting it into the project. So if I go into this particular one, it's going to still have my list of everything that I copied from that general, and I can go in and I can, and as you can see, it uploaded the comment in there. The files won't automatically upload in there, but comments will. And so you can go in there if there's specific comments that you need, try to do those inside the project. But you can go through and you can just go through the tasks there and you can edit those and make changes without messing with your master template. So that's going to be how you can add a board to a project. And another thing too that I just forgot to mention when we were building the original board, you can mark these off here just by checking those off. And so that's going to be how you can complete those different tasks is just by clicking that gray checkbox next to each one of those. So once we've added that in there, there's a couple other things that I want to talk about as far as sharing goes. And let me actually jump into one of my other projects that I have one assigned in. It is the headshot one. And we can jump into tasks here and we'll go to the board section. So once you've added a board to a project, you do have the ability to share this board with a client, and you'll do that via the client portal. So if you're in a business or you have projects that you say, I need my client to be able to see what I'm working on, or I need to give them a checklist, or I need them to be aware of where I'm at in their process, then you can share these boards in the client portal. So right here, you can kind of see underneath the web design, it says privacy client. So with each board, there's privacy settings that you can set with the boards. If you click this drop down right here, you'll be able to see 3 things. You can just copy, let's say you make some changes to this board and you like the way it looks and you just want to make that a template, you can copy that over to your general boards. And so you can basically save a template of what you've created there. But the one we'll look at here is edit privacy settings. When we click on this, there's 2 different privacy settings that you can fluctuate between with the privacy settings. The first one is going to be admin and assigned users. If that is the option that you've selected, that means that the admin, so whoever is on the admin role, which means that they can see everything, so the brand owner and any multi-users who are set at the admin level, they'll have access to this, plus the assigned users as well. So let's say you have a multi-user who is set at the basic level. You would need to assign them to the project in order for them to have access to the board. So this is only for admin and assigned users, or basically it's only a project board that's for internal use. So the client wouldn't have access to this at all. It would only be internally able to be seen and marked off and edited. If you go the client portal route, that's going to automatically take that project board and put it in the client portal for your client to have access to. It is important to know, and we'll look at what it looks like in the client portal as well. I have it pulled up, but when you put it into the client portal, the client will be able to edit tasks, to add tasks in there. They can upload files to different tasks. They can rename tasks. So this wouldn't be where they can just see it and not play around with it. This is a joint board. So that means that between you and your client, you both have access to the same board. It would be the same as if you and a multi-user had access to the same board where changes can be made. So I would only recommend using the client portal option if you're okay with them still having that capability. You might tell them that it's not up for, editing or anything like that, and they shouldn't make any changes, but it is possible for them to make changes and to upload files, extract things off of there. So if we click on the client portal option, we'll save that. And I already have one pulled up, but I have my portal already on. So I just set my password to 1234, and I have a client portal already pulled up here, and I have the board being shared in there. So this is what it's going to look like to a client. When you upload a project board into the client portal and you share it, this is going to be what it looks like. There's a section titled boards, and then you'll be able to see that there's that design board in there. When I click into it, it's going to basically just open up that board as a new window. So what I'm seeing right now and what you're seeing is what the client can see. It's what the business owner can see. This is literally a joint board that you both can share. So there's not any extra privacy settings on. They can read it only and not write on it. It's just a shared board. You both have the same access to it. The only thing that a client is not able to do is if we click into, let's click into this task here. In this one, I have a PDF that's uploaded on there. So as you can see, I just wanted to make sure you guys can see that. Basically, you can put the files in there if you do it within the project and upload those files, not from the general area, but if you go into the project and upload those files, you'll be able to see those there. Then the comments, you'll be able to see those there. The one thing that a client cannot do is they can't switch boards or switch tasks on which columns they go into. The only thing they can do is change the body. They can change the due date. They can change the files, or I guess not change the files, but they can extract the files or add some more if they want to. And then they can see the comments there. They can even leave comments if they want to. So if you want to do some communication back and forth with your client on particular tasks, you can have some communication ability with the comments there. And so that's going to basically be what it's like for the client to see too as well. So if they want to add tasks, they're able to. If they want to add a completely different column, they can do that. As you check things off on your end, or as they check things off on their end, it's going to do that on the opposite end as well. And so if I check those off there, and then I'll go back to my project and let me refresh the page here. And we'll bring this up. It's going to actually mark off those things that the client actually marked off. Or if I marked something off, it'll do that for the client. So as you can see, if I come back into my board the next time I do, if the client has checked things off, now I can see that they've got those things done, or vice versa. I've seen people that use task boards more for keeping the client updated on how far they're along in the project. Just so anytime the client logs in, I like to call it, it's kind of like the pizza tracker at Domino's, where basically it just kind of shows you where they're at making the pizza. You can kind of do the same thing here. As you check this off, it's going to show that in the client portal, so your client can kind of see, oh, they're in this phase of it. So that's kind of a cool way that you can utilize the task boards to keep your client updated on things. The one thing it won't do, though, in that realm is it won't send them a notification when they're at a certain point. We don't have that built into the system, but anytime they log in, they would be able to see that there. So that's how you can share task boards in the client portals. That's really the only way to share those right now. There's not a way to just email the task board to someone. It's only able to be shared through the client portal. And that's how you'll do it, is just by changing the privacy settings up here at the top. And then you can switch that to client portal. So that is how to, let me go back to the outline here. That's how to share the task boards. And next we're going to talk about a few limitations. One, completely manual completion. So with the task boards, you might be thinking, okay, do I need task boards, or what about workflows? I did a webinar a while back on the differences between workflows and task boards, what one can do and what can't do. And so I will kind of talk through a couple of those now. Anytime in your business where you're saying, I need this to populate once this happens, anything along those lines of automation, I need this task to appear once they've signed their contract, or 7 days before their session, I need to be reminded to do this. Anytime you're talking in that kind of language of it needs to be kind of once this happens, it triggers this, that's automatically going to default to workflow. The one thing with task boards is that it is completely manual. So there's not a way for, if I click this task to trigger something else, this is just going to be a straight to-do list. So if you're looking at something that's just going to be, I just want to check this off at my own leisure whenever I get this done, I just want to mark it complete so I can see that I got things done. That's what the task boards are designed to do. So there's not any automation capabilities with the task boards at the moment. It's just a strict check off to-do list. So that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure to cover, because a lot of people do have questions about the automation capabilities of task boards. But what you can do is, if you do want to-dos to pop up at certain times, you can create a workflow that is all to-dos. So if you're needing automation, you could create essentially, in this case, it would be 4 workflows. One would be like a brainstorm workflow. The next one would be a planning workflow, a design workflow, and just make all of the different actions to-dos. So that way, once you mark this complete, the next one populates, or, 7 days before their event, these tasks populate. So you can, in a way, kind of create sort of the same thing with workflows. The one thing is that you can't share workflows with clients. And then also you don't kind of have this side-by-side look at the entire project at one time. The workflows would be kind of self-contained. So, but you can do that if you're needing an automation type circumstance for your different project management needs. So that's one thing. B, we kind of already talked about this. Clients can make edits in the portal. We get that question a lot, if they can make changes, and they can make changes in there. We don't have any direct integrations through Zapier. So a lot of people have wanted to know if they can create a board here and have that whole board get uploaded into Asana or Trello. We don't have any integrations there. I do know that there have been some people that have figured out some crafty workarounds for that. And so in the Facebook community, if you're needing to understand how you can get tasks into another platform, head into the Facebook community. For those of you guys who are on Facebook, you can write in there. Those of you who are getting this through Big Marker, join our Facebook community, ask around. I know some people have figured out some cool ways to get things to integrate, but we don't have a direct integration with them. But I have heard of some cool things that people have done to kind of move pieces in there or to have it work the right way. So that's C. We don't have any integrations to just pick up the boards and move them into another platform. And then they cannot talk to workflows. This is a big one that we get a lot of questions about too. So some people have asked, if I check off task 5, can that activate something in the workflow? But they don't talk to each other. They're their own separate entities. And so task boards are just strictly on their own, and workflows are strictly on their own. And so there's not any communication between the two. And so you'll have to take that into consideration whenever you're building your different pieces for project management as well. And the last thing that I have here, and then I'll open it up for some questions and we can go through some of those. But the other thing is that there's not any internal communication capabilities beyond commenting. So when I mean internal communication capabilities, a lot of people ask if it kind of has like a Slack function where you can write to your multi-users and just have like a direct chat between there. We don't have anything on that level yet. We have had it requested, so hopefully that could be something cool that we could add in the future. But right now, the only communication you can do with the task is in that comments area. And so if you want to have any communication there, you can just have your assistants or your business partners just comment on the task and develop maybe like a little mini thread in there. But that's really the only thing we have as far as talking to other multi-users about what they need to get done is just in the comments area. So those are just a couple of the things, some of the big ones that we normally get. But what I want to do is I want to open it up for questions. So let me jump back over to Big Marker and we'll go through some of those. Let's see here. Holly has one request for the next webinar. Can you do a webinar on how to make a proposal flow into the invoice and contract? I saw a YouTube video on it and it would change my life to make this happen. So Holly, I believe it might be next week. It's sometime this month. I have a proposal webinar already set up. So you should be able to go in and register for that through Big Marker. But I have one called All Things Proposals. That's one that I've done in the past. And I'm also going to do another one this month because I know that's a big piece of the system. So make sure to sign up for that. Let's see if we have any questions on Facebook here. Yolanda, good stuff here. Thank you, Yolanda. I appreciate it. I don't see any other comments at the moment for that. But yeah, guys, if you do have comments, you can feel free to write in and send us an email about task boards. If you want to comment on the Facebook video when you're seeing this, I know that some people watch this later in the day. So if you do have comments, go ahead and write those in there. I'll try to come back and read through those comments later. But hopefully you can use some task boards and figure out some cool ways to use that, whether it's just keeping your client updated on where you're at with your process. That's a cool thing that you can do with it. You can share files and whatnot to your client through tasks. So think if there's any cool ways that you can use task boards. And I believe next week, let me go ahead and look up what next week's webinar is so you guys are aware of that. But we do these every single Thursday. 9:45 a.m. PST. We try to jump into a different piece of the system. Like I said, proposals is going to be one that's coming up. And so we'll just talk through these. Next Thursday is lead captures and workflows. So we're going to really dive into the importance of using a lead capture and how it can greatly increase your efficiency on developing a workflow. So that's next week. And then Holly, the August 22nd is going to be the All Things Proposals webinar. So that'll be in 2 Thursdays. We'll be doing one on proposals. And then the week after that is going to be going over what you should do before you build your workflow. That's always been a really popular one. I love talking about that one. And so that's going to be a great one if you're in that beginning phase and you're kind of wondering, what should I get done before I build my workflow or like the prerequisites of that? We'll do one on the 29th for that. So awesome, guys. Well, I'm going to jump off of here. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of the week. It's already August. And so hopefully you guys are doing well and your businesses are booming. We love helping you guys out. And if there's anything we can do for you, feel free to let us know. So awesome, guys, jumping off of here. Have a great rest of the day.